This side, this would be orange. When I look at this side, this will be green. Now, very quickly, you have to take your role very seriously because, again, we have to go fast. We're already 20 minutes late. Scenario number 3. Green. Increase in infiltration and a lot of crime syndicates seem to be taking interest in this kind of infiltration. Crime syndicates can be anybody, but why are they constantly in communication with some of the infiltrators is a question. And then the Homeland Security or border guarding forces have realized that infiltration is not only happening trans-border, but it is also happening through tunnels. There are small drones and medium drones. Use of them is going to be on the rise. And transmission is on the increase, radio transmission. Not only here, but also some coastal patrols find that the infiltrators are not only using the overland, the mountainous area, but also marshy area and coastal area. And they're trying to get into some mangroves. While all this is happening, some started reporting that maybe some artillery and tanks are moving from A place to B place, unknown, but they are moving. Maybe to forward area or ultimately they'll come to the forward area. And also there's an assessment that there could be a Hamas type zero-day attack. It can happen because people have recently read that this happens. So now there is a new terminology, Hamas type zero-day attack. Is D-Day imminent? Are we going to war? It is only the border guarding forces and the Homeland Security facing a situation like this. Now, if I speak to the Orange Land, what are you up to? Are you actually infiltrating or not infiltrating, or are you just confusing? But by the time you think about it, let me ask the Greenland, what do you think is happening? How would you carry out operations against whatever movement you're seeing? How much proactive, how much passive, how much preparatory? Yeah, please.
I believe so the use of drones in this case might help us cross the line of control. The drones can be shot down or the drones can be detected. So I would use SAR satellites and do interferometric SAR analysis by which we can detect deformations of the ground.
Sorry, I would use SAR satellites and I would do interferometric SAR while we're measuring the phase difference between waves to measure the deformation in the ground.
Can I interject?
Yes, sir.
Infiltration is human infiltration.
Yes, sir.
And tunnels are also only meant for the human movement.
Yes, sir.
The drones are small drones. Small drones.
Yes, sir.
And there are some medium drones which I do not know the definition of because some people are reporting, no, it is bigger than small. So I'm calling it medium, but I don't know what it is. So now please tell me that you are now looking at the usage of SAR for all this.
So we're looking at usage of SAR for the tunnel specifically, where they're being dug and where they're coming out.
How would you know where to look?
So by
Where the tunnels have already been reported? Or you're looking at tunnels where
Which are being
now,
dug.
which are invisible?
No, so we're looking at tunnels which are starting to be dug. So right from the beginning, we have intelligence on that, and we know exactly the movement of the enemy.
How, if you already know where the tunnels are, then why do you want to see from the SAR? You already know it.
So we start using SAR just to see where they start the digging, sir. In this case, if we have that intelligence, then we can prepare for such an attack, or the use of small drones also, because there'll be activity near the tunnels.
Okay, please, team leader.
Okay, I'll just slightly direct your this thing so that you can answer again from space. You see, infiltration and all. Yesterday we had a thing on Homeland, and you heard one of the panelists speaking that in LWE area they have achieved results because from space or some other assets they have been able to pinpoint things. So one is that we have to see that whatever we can find as far as space assets, and of course it will be combination of others. If you can check on this infiltration and all these communication in border areas, if it is happening, it's again likely happening from space.
Likely happening for space, or they might
So-
be using LoRa, sir.
So we have to now answer that what all can we find out, what are they up to, because the last question is D-Day imminent? So these indicators have to be quantified by our tech resources to check whether all these things are happening to what extent. So I want answers in that. Okay.
So this, since it's been reported increase in infiltration, we would like to see what kind of infiltration is. Is it armed infiltration or just a smuggling infiltration? So while SAR, I know where are the tunnels on my side, but I would like to know where are they opening, where is the beginning on the other side. That is where SAR will help. And now where they are on the other side, close to that I will need to monitor area, that what are there some terrorist camps close by? Or what kind of traffic is leading to that? Is it just a smuggling activity or is it a terrorist movement? Or what is the ultimate aim which will tell me whether the Hamas type of 0 day is imminent or not? As far as shipping activity, coastal patrol, we have discussed it earlier also. If they have been reported and they are small patrol, etc., probably we have assets to see. Communication most important. Now again, we will see that is it just a communication activity, more transmissions, but I am not able to make out that what are they are. Or am I able to listen? If I am able to listen, then they are an intelligence source in itself, which will tell me what kind of activity is taking place. But let's say I don't have the capability to decipher what is being said, then jamming those communications so that at least they also can't use it will be resorted to. The immediate actions.
So you will resort to jamming at some point that you will decide. But
Of
not
course,
the moment it opens.
when I will have to decide whose purpose are they serving better. I mean, are they providing me intelligence better, or now I have run out of that and they are of no use to me and now time to act? Then probably they are helping the enemy more than we'll jam it.
You see what? How we can give one example of technology uses. Communication is happening. You can identify generally from which area or some direction finding, and then by using whatever satellite means, because of there are people you can identify. So you have to use 2-3 resources to find out that what is happening at what place. Similarly for coastal ships, again there would be some communication channels which would be open up from space, because obviously they are not transmitting on landlines or something. So coastal ships would be transmitting. Similarly, you will use your ISR resources of space to target. So, this would be a combination of things to find out that what exactly is happening. And if that is happening, then you need to move our own assets. I mean, what you want to put, coastal or marine troops or whatever counter. We are not discussing those tactics. But definitely, we need to. So, what is the assessment? Is the D-Day imminent?
So if tanks and artillery are staging forward, where is the doubt?
Exercise.
I mean, if it's not a declared exercise or something, the third last bullet is the one which is also operative, and these are not sequentially, they're all parallelly. Where is the doubt?
But Orange Line tactics is to jam and do everything first, launch a rocket attack, launch an air attack.
I assume this is not just a regimental level movement, so this is on a much broader front, much larger scale. That's why it's found the bullet here.
We can counter them by activating spectral interference between the satellites of the Orange House in space itself. So their communication and navigations will be interfaced by just activating the spectral interface.
Firstly, do we have space situational awareness of Orange?
No, if
Do we have?
Yes, sir, we can, and we can also take archival imagery in this case. Build a case for build-up. Sir had mentioned PR as well in our media. We do need to build a case for build-up. If we can prove that there's been a significant build-up in that area, we can then flag it to the counterpart. And if the counterpart has some response which is non-aggressive, then we know in this case that it's probably just a strategic move by them. And then we can also strategically plan. We need not do things like jamming, which could be perceived as an act of war.
Because why I'm saying is you can do anything to Orange only if you know where their assets are. And if you don't have the space situational awareness, you can't do anything. So that is the start point.
I have one point. So I think space situational awareness can be attained by using something like ground penetrating radars, and those can be deployed on drones as well as satellites. And as we know,
Space situational awareness, satellite.
okay.
Not the-
one point I was focusing on was the second last point, and the last point was whether a Hamas type 0 day attack would happen. So knowing how many tunnels are there is of key importance. So the use of ground penetrating radars is very useful in knowing how much the scale of penetration is. And one more point is that the same assets that we find, the tunnels that we find using such type of remote sensing can be then verified using on the ground forces.
If I can just deviate, sir, since we handled Wayanad and all the disasters, the biggest problem for us was where are the bodies. So, ground penetrating radar was not so successful. We don't have. So, that was the most painful and difficult thing to get, and people who were actually took out a lot of people, saved a lot of lives. But this is something which is under the landslide, how you identify. So we need that technology.
So
You have
tunnels
it?
actually have
Because we are discussing homeland, so
can I? Yeah. You're right that identifying bodies is very difficult. But tunnels are
under a landslide.
Under a landslide. But tunnels are such structures that they are hollow cavities inside the ground, unlike in the case of a landslide. So it is much more potent to use ground penetrating radars. So that was just one take.
Startup and tunnels.
Are you representing an industry?
Yeah, I am from a startup.
You have this capability?
So not our startup,
Okay, build it up.
So there is a startup in Research Park IT which is developing this. I think. Okay.
Here we can monitor a lot of things. For example, communication transmission is increased, coastal patrols see suspicious movements, artillery tanks moving. So the thing is, we can use RF geolocation to exactly pinpoint where exactly those troops are moving in what direction, and we can do a bit of correlation based on other types of imagery, optical SAR, whatever is available. Connect the dots with RF and try to figure out whether they're actually the troops moving and in what direction they're moving.
Are you also, just a minute, are you representing an industry which is monitoring communications?
So we are into downstream geospatial intelligence. So we are working on different types of
communication,
data.
because you gave a point about
RF
communication
geolocation.
monitoring.
Yeah. So we're working with a foreign partner, Unseen Labs. So they have the capability of RF geolocation.
Okay. The point here is it's very simple to say, but
but-
to get that pinpoint which direction they are moving and all.
So
it's
that
very
will be
good
between
theoretically.
correlation of optical imagery as
No,
well as
the point here is you have to give results, and if you are able to give results, we will straight away put you in touch with the armed forces.
okay. So correlation that can be done. I can show.
Okay. So I think
you have some hands.
Yeah. Sir, for subterranean operations, we can also use a team of robotic assets that are equipped with multiple sensors on board. We're working towards this. Somebody mentioned GPR. We use GPR along with LiDARs, thermal sensors, other form of sensors, wherein we integrate that with satellite imagery to understand the region of interest and then go and explore these regions through our autonomous robotic system. So that is something we can do for subterranean operations, and it's proven useful because we are part of a DARPA challenge at JPL where we worked on very similar technologies, and it's useful in the real
So
world.
the point is, I may have detected 2 tunnels, I may have seen some drones, some tanks and all that. So 2 tunnels, there could be actually 20. So the issue that is staring at us is, this is just some. We hopefully short of surveillance assets, space-based is something that is
That's exactly the intent, to find out what is your technical deficiency and what is your quantitative deficiency also. So unless you pinpoint that, we can keep talking, but finally we are not getting. So anyone who's claiming something which I know there is a question mark, I am asking that person to connect.
Okay. Are you done?
yes.
No? Okay. Let's go to green force. Orange force. Sorry, the old algorithm.
I think the green has got it all wrong. What has happened is, because of climate change, my border areas have got affected by huge disaster. So there is a lot of civilian volunteer movement there, and along with this, our paramilitary is also going. So what has happened is, in high grounds, we have built some trenches where we are placing rations and other goods which are necessary for the population. Second thing is, our census operation is going on in the present, and this is very important because the country has not had census for very long, and our paramilitary and other civilian staff is moving with them. Third is we have elections shortly. A lot of election rallies are being held close to the border, and that is why so much management is happening. I think the other side is just being trigger happy.
Tanks and artillery, sir.
Exercise.
That is your visualization. No, that is not actually happening. This is I'm going to the media, international media, and this is not a video game situation. Our country is faced with serious problems, and we, as a rightful nation, we are trying to address them.
So you're moving some tanks and artillery guns for the situation.
For training exercise.
See, the thing is that, as I said, that we have suffered the most severe disaster. We are just moving them to safer places so that they don't get spoiled or destroyed.
But this is a disaster situation which is not in any news, which is not known to anyone else but the Orange country. Census is only happening in border area.
Request
to be
address the check.
To be fair, the Orange Force has a scheme, very good scheme of developing the border areas. So as part of that, this particular activity is taking place, and there are some forces which have this kind of force level. I don't want to go into specifics, which they can move, and it may give you a semblance that things are moving like that.
I'm getting an impression that Orange will never actually go for an attack. Because if you go for an attack, then you never prepared for it.
There is something called intensity of gray zone. So possibly the intensity of gray zone is increasing. The rest is for the green land to infer.
Can I just interject technically? If you are creating this narrative and if you are disputing it, both of you should somehow invoke the space segment to bolster your arguments. I mean, it's a great line of thinking as a give and take, but how would you leverage the space segment to either build up your narrative, fake or otherwise, and how would you discredit that narrative, fake or otherwise?
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'll say.
Let's. Okay, fine. You go first, and then.
So the mic.
Let the Orange say the situation.
See, whatever we are saying is corroborated by the fact space technology is also saying the same, electronic technology is also saying the same, and we are open to it. I think the Green should concentrate on development of their own people in their own country.
Let me just clarify how our narrative can be built and will be foolproof. The thing is, we'll just see the technological maturity in terms of the subsequent analysis that somebody was quoting, that they'll be using differential interferometric SAR, which is very, very limited in the present scenario if you see with the Greenland. Additionally, if you are looking at the large LLMs being used for intelligence creation or correlation as you seem to be, and corroborative with the images, which is again limited, not as a service also it's not available straight away, out of hand. So we have a definitive leverage. We have persistent coverage with GeoSAR and other platforms. So naturally we'll be able to monitor much better, and we'll be able to drive any narrative that we want and at the place of choice.
But as a curator, again, I'm forewarning the Orange Land that if you go to war, I see that there is no real preparation being made. Is it true?
Purely, sir, I'll have to intervene. So what I'm trying to say is that, that narrative is going on, it's part of a grey zone narrative. And the situation which I'm trying to say is that a grey zone continues even while preparing for war. Right? How will we disrupt the green to ensure that they do not come to know that we are preparing for war, yet preparing for war? So the two questions which they have asked, which is how do you disrupt and what are the preemptive actions which we should take, please concentrate on that. Narrative building, we will leave it to the Homeland Security to continue doing it, right?
So, can we go?
Yeah.
So someone mentioned that differential interferometry.
Sorry, they have to respond.
Dushant is responsible for his people,
so
and they have to respond to him.
Yeah. So yes.
But address the chair though.
You kindly address the chair, don't address me.
So, as this forwards war preparation effort, so obviously you will try to.
Just hand over the mic.
Yeah, as a preparation for war, without letting anybody know you're preparing for war, you would like to establish an alternate communication network. So you might have, let's say, you've thought of ahead of time that your satellites have both the RF component and the optical component, so that when your RF is jammed either in space or on ground, you have an alternate means to relay that information through your optical inter-satellite nodes. Have portable optical ground stations, so you can need not spend a lot of time bringing up a big RF antenna and all, so you can move it to a place which you know, and then set it up maybe in a couple of hours. So things like that which will give you an advantage in terms of communication, so that when the war happens and the inevitable jamming of the RF lines happen, you still have communications going on.
I'll give you all a cue. See, you don't want them to know. How do they get to know about you? They get to know about you through their surveillance means. How are you going to ensure that their surveillance means and the other element, etc., is unable to pick up what you are actually doing and what you actually want them to see? You have the resources, you have the asset. Now you're Orange Force here. Come on, wake up.
Sir, we use. Thank you, sir. We use spoofing as well as creation of alternate communication channels through the means of satellite broadcast and continuous broadcasting of such usage would also derail their thought process into thinking and believing as a part of the homeland narrative, sir. Secondly, sir, we also would like to build in.
Take one point at a time. You start doing spoofing all of a sudden. What does it indicate?
No, sir, I'm not talking of
Are you
spoofing.
going to do spoofing all 365 days?
No, sir, it is going to be selective, sir. Firstly,
No, my point is, if let us say you have limited satellites.
Yes, sir.
And your limited satellites start getting spoofed. Is it business as normal?
I would say it's not business normal because that is also being played as an end part of it.
See, the simple solution here is when you know the capability of the adversary satellites, do you have periods of eclipse or periods of window which are dark?
We do definitely have those periods of windows which can be utilized, sir, and can be capitalized actually, sir, to the advantage of the Orange Nation. And as a matter of fact, there are past precedences where we have capitalized on such dark spots, sir, or dark periods, sir. Those satellite eclipses, sir. Secondly, sir, as far as the preemptive actions which we are taking, sir, building the narrative is one part of it. Consistently maintaining is the next part of it through the use of satellite, SATCOM, and generation of other communications through satellite to depict some other actions in some other different areas, sir. So here I feel is not only use our own encrypted standards of communication to secure our own communication from being intercepted by the Greenland, but simultaneously ensuring that we have those, I would say, signals being created in those areas, or the stamp being created in those areas where we are having depiction of action without any action having taken place.
Are you not going
okay,
to do any
Greenland, ultimately, you have a problem, and we need problem to be really fixed, and you have to come to a conclusion exactly what you're going to prepare for.
Okay, before he answers, sir, firstly, we don't trust Orange Land. So whatever narrative they are building, we have maintained a BMP kind of a posture that we are always ready.
BMP?
Border management posture, that we have a basic thing ready that whether it's going to escalate, that is, otherwise we are already on ground. So even if it is a disaster, we are not sure. But now, let's see. Yeah, you can speak. And somebody else.
So as sir mentioned, we have the persistent monitoring constantly in play because we hardly trust our neighbors. we know that tunneling is going on in a rat hole manner, in a rat hole fashion. And we typically know the regions that are flat and open where the tunneling is happening. However, we also know that this tunneling is happening from inside the houses. So a natural hole or like a borehole or something is not going to be seen. And this is a typical pattern that has been observed in the past. However, we have also observed through persistent monitoring and local intelligence that when tunneling of this pattern happens, the debris that has been coming out is being deposited outside these houses, which means that an indicator of the tunneling is the debris outside some houses. So based on our persistent monitoring with our high resolution satellite networks, we have pinpointed the houses which are more or less indicators that some kind of a tunneling is happening, and we have
including all those houses which could be under construction.
Including, so
Many
we
of
have,
them.
so the point is that we have an approximate number and an approximate area where these kind of opening and endpoints are normally in place. So we are able to sort of guard that area. Secondly, sir, we have a common data platform. We have been developing this for a very long time, where we are not only corroborating all the geospatial data, but we are also bringing in all the IoT datasets, all the field intelligence, all the satellite-based intelligence, all in one place, so that it forms a common intelligence picture, and we can move ahead with all our plans.
Okay, yeah.
So with reference to the previous scenario and this scenario, it is clear that a fog of war is being built up by the enemy. As a response, our national grid network has been activated, and the Home Affairs as well as Defense, BSF, everybody is looking into their domains. A decision has been taken that commercial, startup, all capabilities in space will be activated in an intermittent manner so that we can decipher the enemy intentions if at all they are there, sir. So indigenous, commercial, as well as startup, whatever inputs we are getting from the space, we are using them to decipher the enemy intentions. We'll take our actions upon it.
That's it.
So about the space thing, actually what has happened is we actually feel we did not have that surveillance capability initially to make out that this kind of thing, what he highlighted, that seeing debris, etc. being collected was not being monitored. Now we actually asked help from some friendly nation who had oblique, like inclined orbit satellites. Because enemy is supposed to have taken off the dark period of our polar satellites to carry out this activity. Had we got inclined orbit satellites looking very closely, then probably we would have saved this situation. So the recommendation is that we quickly need to build up our own assets which move in inclined orbit so that we are not taken by surprise for this kind of activity.
Thank you so much. I mean, we've run out of time. May I request Shri Sanjay Kundu to come out of your orange avatar and please give us your expert comments as Homeland Security expert.
See, I really don't know. Actually, I don't understand war games. I'm like a lawyer, like Dr. Cole. I'll fight for the side which pays me. Okay. I'll take up the case whoever comes to me. But if I have to do the attack, so as I have built the narrative, so in the guise of flood relief and disaster relief, I can move air sorties and land movements close to the border. I can always justify it. There's a huge thing. And in the guise of census, we can move heavy machinery close to the border, combatants as enumerators. And in the guise of elections, political leaders visit the border to mobilize the border population, EVM type and truck type movement, and senior officers also go and assess the border. So what I am doing is basically preparing for an offensive. And but the world as such does not know it because I have camouflaged it very well. And rest.
Can you speak from the Green Force perspective? I
think they need to be smarter because
if you are Green Force,
if I am Green Force, I will have
because we are. I said, please come out of your phone because we want to really hear from you as what the Homeland Security, how is the situation actually you face and how you will connect to probably the D-Day.
Okay. The first thing is increase in infiltration. I will alert all the border guard forces, the border states, the intelligence. And first thing I'll do is call for a meeting, assess everything and give them a task. Kindly do this because they have to be alerted. And I'll also activate my deep assets inside the other country, whether it is correct. or not, that infiltration is going on. Crime syndicates, these are in the hinterland. I'll have there are organizations within the country. I can find out whether there are huge cash transactions, money transferred to some accounts, and there are banks in Switzerland. I have embassy there. They will go there. Whether there are any movements of huge transfers of funds. Then detect tunnels is that I'll increase the foot patrolling also.
Sorry. What do you expect from the space people or space specialists or space agencies to help the homeland in this kind of a scenario?
Okay, the first thing is increased infiltration is that the other side of the border has to be under surveillance, and any change in movement has to be brought to a notice. Second thing is tunnel, as they said, capability is there. That capability has to be deployed. And drones we can use also, but what happens is the other side uses more drones because they have to know our defense capabilities. So we need to do this. But nothing can happen on the border unless you have assets deep inside. For that, huge movement of money is essential. Transfer of funds is it, because everywhere it has been preceded with transfer of funds.
So you want tech intelligence on the movement of money?
Yes.
The money trail.
All this goes through space only. All this goes through space only. All these, your credit cards, everything is through space only. So wherever there are red flags, that has to be immediately alerted. Every transaction is through space. So that is where we have to be alerted. And one more thing. Before anything, there are a lot of diplomatic activities. So you have diplomats from one country going to the other country going to this. So you have to watch out for the manifest. Who's going where? Because countries collaborate before certain things. And all this is available through space and other technologies that we are talking about. It is not just about that borderline. A lot of things go beyond that.
But every transaction through space, not
Sorry?
all such transactions through space, not in the production.
Oh, he'll during his time possibly he'll talk about it. Sir, close the session.
Electronic process se jata hai.
No, but please, you can give your 2 minutes.
No, actually, I don't have any observation to make. Yeah, I was just curious to know whether we have drones that will self-destruct in certain situations.
Yes, we have.
That can be done.
Self-destruct drones. See, these transactions may go through either a satellite communication or it might even go through these undersea cables. It will come under surveillance in the cyber domain, not necessarily space domain, and that's the kind of thing that is being done. That's a different issue. Now, coming down to what we have got here. See, last time in the previous session, I was talking about you've snapped a picture, but how soon have you geocoded it and done an int extraction? So that's part of the regular OODA loop. Now we are talking about using AI to mine that data to find where somebody has done something. Just to make sure that everybody is on the same page. This requires a loop in itself. So it's not just that for military cases you take a ton of data and throw PyTorch at it and you got something going. No, that will work only for call center and credit card transaction data. In the military case, you got your basic data which both green and orange have acknowledged, fine, the satellites have rained it down. Now what the narrative is giving you is that you have very specific human int or ground int hits saying that yes, we caught some troop movement here or we caught some tunnel digging there. See, the problem with this is not that can I detect a tunnel being dug, I'll detect earth being dug up. The problem is there can be so many other reasons for the earth being dug up. So given the specific data at hand of either a troop shuffling or of a tunnel digging, you would then have to build a specific model, AI model for specifically that. Run it as a limited run to generate some hits, humanly curate it, refine the model with the larger amount of data, then only go and unleash it on your gigabytes and terabytes of data to find out all the tunnels being hit or all the places where they have built up the infrastructure for launching drones to carry explosive or drugs across the border, whatever. Now, that part has to be understood by the green if they are going to really be able to scale up fast enough for all this antics on the other side. Now, the other thing that seems to me that given the way the narratives were going, there is a case for having the tech capability of seriously generating believable fakes in the satellite imagery space. See, right now ChatGPT will do it with respect to the regular, what I will call vacation photo space. That show me a picture of me standing on top of Mount Everest, bang comes a believable color image. As far as I know, it doesn't work quite so well if you say, show me 2 aircraft carriers within my national waters. No. But both sides would probably end up having to get into this. Now, where that pseudo space tech would come in handy, if you are trying to build the narrative that, okay, there is some natural disaster to which I am responding, the correct response from the green zone would have been to say, yes, we have detected that natural disaster and flood the internet with more of those so that his own people get confused that there may be the flood coming. And secondly, say that in order to assist them, we are moving our troops into the position to help them if required. So one has to have that tech, not just for the truth. Sadly enough, you also need the tech for the lie. And that's the dimension we have to keep in mind for the eras we are getting into. So that would be from the tech part of how you would enhance your currently imagined space capability to really be effective against a crooked adversary.
Thank you, Dr. Akshi. Yeah, thank you. See, specifically, we were looking at a homeland security focus. All our answers and all our thoughts are based on what we have today. What we should be focusing on when the PM says Viksit Bharat 2047, Surakshit Bharat 2047, and you need to develop the capabilities today. So what do you visualize as homeland security? There will be a tremendous amount of camera surveillance networks. This entire thing has to be fused somewhere. That data has to be now utilized using AI algorithms. And what Bhavik, you mentioned about the archival facility. You know, archival data is of a different format. It is of a different, quite a few of those are still in hard copies. So you have to get your data act right, data fusion of what is the legacy data, what is the current data. You have to get it right. So that's a big exercise. Why am I saying this? This entire exercise today is for the industry. This is for the industry to see where the scope lies. What is it that you need to do? You can talk about spectral interference. Fine, build it. Go ahead, do it. And show it and bring a proof of concept. Because I can talk through the theory books, but finally I need to get the whole thing right. If you are able to foresee what we are going to do, where facial recognition, that entire data is going to reside somewhere. So that's something which is a challenge for you all. And when I'm saying challenge is a security challenge, but it's a business opportunity. So if that can be understood, I think we are fine. What AVM Bedi said about inclined orbit, that's exactly what I've been saying. You cannot rely only on one particular type of orbit, and if you are going to go for one orbit, you will be deceived. You will have gaps in your entire observation because the polar orbit will be only for better part of the day, but inclined will give you much more than what you can think of. So that is one more thing, and even archival imagery, even the retrieval, it's quite a bit which is automated, but retrieval is still manual. While we should go in for robotics, and this is yet another opportunity for you guys to work on it. And most of you will be looking at 2047 as something that emanated from here. If you don't imagine it here properly, I think maybe the precious time would be lost, opportunity would be lost. Thank you, sir. Now here is scenario number 4. The green and orange